Welcome to the Bucher and Friends podcast, co-starring 10-year NBA center Ryan Hollins.
Couple pump fakes, leans in, shot blocked by Ryan Hollins. Hollins sent that into the third row.
6 rebounds and 8 assists.
Hollins climbs the stairs.
Down the floor. Ryan Hollins! He is the high jumper!
That's what I want to see. Give me some gunpowder and throw the hammer down.
And now, here is your host,
Let's send it over to Rick Bucher.
Rick Bucher.
Welcome to another episode of Bucher and Hollins, subsidiary of Bucher and Friends, part of the United WeCast Network. I'm Rick Bucher. You can read my stuff on Bleacher Report. You can find me on Twitter at Rick Bucher. He is Ryan Hollins. You can find him on ESPN. You can hear him on NBA radio. You can see him on Clippers broadcasts. And you can find him on Twitter at the Ryan Hollins and on Instagram at Ryan Hollins. You can also follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Bucher Friends. So, in our last podcast, we spent a great deal of time talking about LeBron James and Michael Jordan and the significance of LeBron passing Michael Jordan. Since then, there's been a report by Chris Haynes of Yahoo that they are going to limit LeBron's minutes the rest of the way, and he may not play in back-to-backs. That's the report. I assume you agree wholeheartedly with this, that your only disagreement would be that he shouldn't play at all. Like, what's the point?
I'm all in. I said a while ago that he shouldn't play at all, but I didn't put two and two together that he was so close to Michael Jordan. It's kind of something you have to do. You know, you got to strive on and pass MJ. And, you know, even if he plays limited minutes right now, that just ruins his averages. You know, ruins the averages. So I mean, bro, you're darn near averaging a triple double. Sit happy with that. There's nothing you can gain. The only possibility that I will believe he would step in and play will be to appease the fans. Mm-hmm. And there are people that, you know, months and months ahead had paid a lot of money to see LeBron James in person,
sure,
and playing and physically on the court. So. You know what I'm saying? Like, that may be it. But honestly, shut it down, Bron. Shut it down. I mean, Kuzma, Ingram on the sidelines, he's on the court. You know, it never felt right.
Well, there's also the league to appease, because obviously they've been going through this with the Pelicans and Anthony Davis. And I get that, serving the fans and making sure that guys are playing and that you're not resting guys at the wrong time, that there should be some coordination of that or understanding. But I don't like hard and fast rules. And honestly, I feel as if a player and a team should be able to do whatever it is that we've lost complete sight of what is the competitive advantage. And you could say, well, why aren't you competing every night for every game? Well, as we've seen, there can be an advantage in not necessarily winning games and playing younger guys. And I just feel as if, you know, I've never seen those rules in place for baseball. When baseball wants to bring young guys up, they're fully capable of that. Telling teams that they have to play guys and then how much they have to play them has never sat well with me. One of the other topics that I wanted to get run by you, and it involves the Lakers and probably involves in some ways the situation now with LeBron shutting it down, is Luke Walton. And not only Luke Walton's future with the Lakers, which I think pretty much everyone has come to the conclusion that it's not going to last much longer, but what I've been hearing is that Bill, his dad, you might know him as a fellow UCLA alum. I think he played basketball. He would love to see Luke not go anywhere. Still coach in LA, just coach at the collegiate level of the UCLA Bruins. Now, you as a UCLA alum, how do you feel about that?
I would love that, man. And Luke, take me on the record, blast this through the whole world. Luke has done an excellent job. He's a great coach. When I watch him from a strategic standpoint, the way he runs, equal opportunity offense, getting out in transition, the things that he says, Luke knows basketball. I played with Luke. Luke knows basketball. Mm-hmm. That's not in question. The question is respect, because the respect has been gone. He's not Magic's guy, and Magic made the worst mistake you can make of a GM. And probably we can name a few mistakes, but this is not neither here nor there. That's not the talk right now, Rick. But he didn't fire nor endorse Luke Walton. He was somewhere in between out of respect.
Right.
And this is a business, so it's not about respect. So either fire Luke Walton, move forward with an interim and get your guy in, or fully endorse Luke Walton and ride it out with him. Yeah. And I really ultimately didn't see either. And LeBron James has kind of pleaded the fifth. And unfortunately, there's so many eyes and ears on LeBron James that if he's not all in with you, we're going to assume he's all out.
Right.
There's no mid-round because he hasn't said anything ugly. He hasn't shoulder bumped him like you remember with Coach Spoelstra.
It hasn't been that extreme.
Right? No. But there's so many eyes on him that if he doesn't have this hugging, playful, fully, endorsement of the coach, you're going to take the flip side. And that's what people have assumed. But LeBron's kind of really, this is Magic's deal. I'm out of it. He really does not like the narrative, and you even know just as much as I do of that he's in this all-powerful being. But unfortunately, it comes with the territory.
Yeah. Well, and it's not just his interaction with Luke. There's been a couple things that he's said, and he's smart enough to know that are going to be looked at as a critique of Luke. When they played the Clippers the other night, I think it was the Clippers, and they lost. And he said, well, we were playing such a short rotation. We ran out of gas at the defensive end. That's going to be interpreted as a comment about Luke's substitutions unless you clarify in some other way, hey, Luke's hands were tied. We didn't have enough guy. We didn't have enough healthy bodies, whatever it might be. He didn't phrase it that way. And he has to be smart enough to know that it's going to be interpreted as a negative unless you make it clear what it is that you're saying. There's been a couple other things, and I think just in general, has this been one of the greatest seasons that LeBron has ever had overall, as far as his energy and his comportment and his commitment to the team? No. And so that, by default, is looked at as a lack of support and solidarity with the head coach, whether he intends it or not. And as you pointed out, I mean, LeBron does have a history. So people are going to watch with, laser focus. What's he doing? How much is he supporting Luke, right? I mean, they're going to look for anything that's going to feed a narrative that says, okay, here's another guy who, as you said, Luke's not Magic's guy. He's not Rob Pelinka's guy. He's not LeBron's guy either. And LeBron has always ended up with his guy, which is why the expectation that Ty Lue is next up and is going to be coming back, from what I've been told, that's a very real possibility. And now some people would say, well, but wait a minute. In Cleveland, Lue went out because LeBron was tired of him there. And that is true. However, it's a little bit like LeBron going back to Cleveland. It's a little bit like you have that steady, and then you break up, and you run around a little bit, and then you kind of realize that, hey, you know what? We had something pretty good there. It was pretty solid. I don't have a whole lot of other options. Let me see if we can find that old Magic again. That's what I'm hearing. You win a championship together. Somebody made the analogy. It's like having a kid with somebody. Like you shared a bond that is a very unique bond. You never forget that. Even if you hit troubled times, you never forget that. That's kind of what they see in the relationship between LeBron and Ty, and why they're expecting him to come back. But I'm with you 100%. I feel like the Lakers, whether intentionally or otherwise, have done a major disservice to Luke Walton. Because I don't know, you read social media, people are killing Luke. They're blaming Luke for the way this season has gone. And I just think I think it's insane. If you look at how he developed these young guys before LeBron came on board, and now you're kind of at cross purposes. Now you got Rajon and Lance, and you got a mixed bag. What are you supposed to do with that as a coach? I mean, were you ever on a team that had as mixed of a bag as the Lakers in terms of a bunch of young guys trying to prove themselves, veterans who are trying to show that they can still play, and a superstar in LeBron James who at one point was thinking maybe, certainly playoffs, maybe even some title contention here early on?
I've seen worse.
You've lived worse? Have you lived worse?
I played through worse. I've seen, at least you can name 3 factions of players and you know where they lie.
Right.
Where everybody was random. You had 5 guys in the same position, and this necessarily wasn't positionless basketball yet.
Where was this?
This was 5 guys playing the same position. I'm not going to disclose that, Rick. We're
What?
not going to dive into
Your
that.
career's over. Come on.
I'm not into bashing people, bro. I'm not into that.
I'm not
Rick.
looking to bash somebody, but
I'm into that. But
a mixed roster is a mixed roster. But you make your choice. That's fine. I'm not going to pressure that.
But it is a conflict, and it's a death wish for a coach. And what happens with young players, not veterans, but with young players, they tune out the coach. And they don't understand that, they don't have the experience in the league yet that says what's for you isn't for everybody. And when I say that, it means maybe LeBron can take a huddle off. Maybe LeBron can, kind of be on his headphones and kind of be halfway in, halfway out.
Right.
But when game time comes, playoffs come, or big moments come, LeBron's going to be LeBron. He knows how to turn it off and on. And the lazy narrative can't come from you. The kind of, let me tune coach out can't come from you. You ain't got enough stripes yet. Right. You got to be eyes and ears locked in with a coach. You can't be thinking in the back of your mind, Magic don't respect him. He not Magic's guy, so I don't got to listen to him. I'm Magic's guy. Because now you end up in between land, and as a player, you really have no solidarity. Luke Walton's still going to be coaching the NBA or college or wherever he chooses. Magic Johnson's still going to be a GM or making billions of dollars somewhere. You, my friend, will be out the league or in a worse situation than you are in right now.
Right.
And guys don't really take that into account. And that's what's happened in LA. Because you can look at somebody else, what Rondo's doing ain't for you, bruh. What LeBron's doing ain't for you. Beasley got shipped out, bruh. Lance Stevenson is going to be all right, but the stuff he does ain't for you. And you can't try to hop in the mix with what these veterans do because they turn it on.
Right.
Y'all can't do both. Y'all got to have one foot in, not one in and one out, right?
Yep. No, that's well said. By the way, we did touch upon Andrew Bogut returning to the Warriors, and we talked about the evolving crisis in confidence that the Warriors had when it came to him. And I mentioned that it went all the way back to when Mark Jackson was there. And it made me realize you were with the Clippers in that 7-game series when you guys knocked them off. And if I'm not mistaken, that's when Bogut had the ribs, where he was traveling with the team, he was around, but I don't know if he ever even played in that series. And I wondered what the view of him and the Warriors and that whole situation between Mark and Bogut was at the time from the Clippers locker room, from your perspective on the other side of that equation. Do you remember?
We didn't pay much mind to it because you got to understand, if I'm not mistaken, they had a plethora of big men at that time, and they've reconstructed the way they consider rosters.
Right.
And, it was Zaza.
No, Zaza wasn't there at the time, but they did have like Zaza? Jermaine O'Neal.
Maybe it was J.O. It was Festus Ezeli. There were a number of big guys that
Maurice Spates was there.
Mo Spates. Yeah, there are a number of guys. They're 6'10", 6'11", or 7 feet. So it never really was a thing to have a big guy missing or not on the Warriors lineup. Nothing about that stood out.
Okay, all right. Because there was a lot of chatter on the other side of that equation. So Bogut ended up not playing in that series at all, and they had more at the center position then, but Jermaine was at a point in his career where asking him to start and play, they did it sort of patchwork at that time. Hilton Armstrong was on the roster, Jermaine O'Neal, Maurice Spates. I mean, they had enough, but that was the advent of their small ball. With David Lee. David Lee was still starting. Draymond was coming off the bench. In fact, I think that's where they really started to play the small ball, because Draymond ended up starting a couple of those playoff games. Now, how would you expect? Because look, college is different. How would you expect Luke would do if he makes the jump to the Bruins? And would you recommend that for him? To
stay in LA lifestyle wise, yeah, I would love that. And Luke knows how to talk to people, man. And the one thing with college kids, you can actually coach. And Luke is a good coach. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like when you put in a set or you say we're running today, this guy's playing, this guy's not playing, you can do that. In the NBA, unless you're all powerful, you can't say, oh, this guy's starting, he's off the bench, he's whatever.
Right.
You're pretty much told from upstairs the minutes that go around for a couple of guys. So that's the difference. And I've never questioned Luke as a coach. He's really, really good and really super intelligent. He was as a player and really runs really good stuff as a coach. So he would be absolutely fine, dude.
Okay. Yeah, and I hope it works out for him. He's a good guy, and as I've said, the criticism, I mean, look, it's silliness. It's people who don't understand the game. When I was at the Warriors Celtics game the other night, and I sat in the stands. A friend of mine has these sweet seats, and so I went and talked to guys beforehand, and then I sat in the stands with a buddy of mine, and I'm hearing people around me criticizing Steve Kerr. Why isn't he getting up off the bench? Why, this wouldn't be happening if we had a coach. I mean, I was like, you have got to be kidding me. For what Steve Kerr has done, for the way he's held this together, for people not to understand how challenging it is to coach. Like everybody, and I felt the same with Phil Jackson. People say, oh, well, of course he won because he had all that talent. Talent can be difficult to coach. To get everybody, when a championship is the bar, to get everybody to stay on the same page, to peak at the right time, to not let the personal agendas get in the way, that is a monstrous challenge. As you know, Ryan, I mean, there's probably 100 guys who could, from an X's and O's standpoint, coach an NBA team. Being a good NBA coach is, the X's and O's is a foregone conclusion. It's really a matter of, can you manage people? And can you do it over 82 games plus? And can you do it with people who have more financial security and otherwise than you do? That is the challenge. And that's where your ability comes in. And I imagine you know that as well as anybody.
That's why it's funny when they say this guy is this guy is that. I mean, Mark Jackson created the Warriors. He would have went on to have the same dynasty, if not even better, if he knew how to handle and manage front office relationships.
Yep.
Because there's no question that Mark Jackson is an amazing, amazing coach. If not, completely above average. And Steve Kerr stepped in and did just as good of a job, and he really gets the accolades. So you're right on line, because the NBA, it's a players' league, and a lot of it comes down to respect. And that's what was tough, is because the respect is lost with Luke Walton. But at the same time, you had a guy like Mark Jackson who commanded the respect from the players, but he never appeased the front office when things got ugly on the other side. He didn't want to smooth with those guys, because basketball is basketball, and he had a lot of great things, not good, but great things going on the court, and they let him go. And with those guys, they never missed a beat.
I mean, I can understand Mark, and I thought he misstepped, but he had a 23-year-old owner's son trying to tell him, with his pedigree in the league, tell him about basketball. And Mark didn't mince any words about who the hell are you. But it was the owner's son, and the owners took exception. And that was really where you got to find a way to just hold your mud. And because that's the way it is. I would rather have an owner who tells his son, hey, he's right. You know what? Find a different way. Yep. Like respect the man, respect what he's done. You don't get extra credit because of nepotism or because of blood relationship. Recognize what the man has done in the game. But nonetheless, the owner gets to decide what rules he's going to play by and what rules you are going to play by. And that's ultimately where things went. But look, I saw firsthand. I know what the culture and the mental attitude was of Klay Thompson, of Steph Curry, of the entire organization. And Mark Jackson came in and changed it. And he changed it by force of his own will and presence. Jarrett Jack and Jermaine O'Neal and some of the veterans that came in, Carl Landry, like he had the right guys there to support him in the locker room to turn that ship. But nonetheless, it started with Mark was the one who said, we're not going to be the same old Warriors. He's the one who implemented the idea that it's going to start with defense. It's going to start with our toughness. He's the one who instilled that, and those were the building blocks for what you see now. So I agree with you. It's and from Luke's part, like, people, again, his rotations are terrible. Like, look at the injuries and the youth, and just give me this. When you look at their roster, who are the guys that you pencil in at any position? Are you playing Lonzo and Rajon together? Are you playing LeBron and Rajon together? Are you playing Brandon Ingram and Josh Hart and Kyle Kuzma together? Like, the pieces are all so varied. There isn't one guy there that I look at and say, I can count on him giving me this next to this guy. Like, they're all, I don't know how many, other than LeBron, like, how many of those guys would you say are plug in, automatic, I put them out on the floor and I play them for 30, 35 minutes and I know what I'm going to get? They're all kind of role players, aren't they? They give you one, they have a certain strength. Fair? I mean, am I missing somebody there?
Well, in a perfect world, what happens is you're built for injuries. Yeah. And, if a guy gets hurt or a guy goes out or a guy's not playing well, you're playing positionless basketball. And that was the goal. Okay, Brandon Ingram, you bring the ball up the court. Lance, you played some backup point guard. You push the ball to the court. Lonzo and Rondo both can play point guard. So you had a number of ball handlers and kind of guys who can do a number of different things, hence where you say no one on that squad necessarily does things. Everyone does things, one thing exceptionally well. There's no specialist. That was the idea. Now, with a team like that, you've got to be excellent defensively. You can't be in the bottom half of the league defensively. You know what I'm saying?
And at one point they were.
Your hat.
At one point they were top 7 defensively. Now, and this is my other problem. So, are we not giving Luke credit for the fact that at one time they were a solid defensive team and they were 4th in the West? I know it was relatively early, but still, we're not going to give him credit for what they did on Christmas Day to the Warriors, what the whole vibe was around that team. But now LeBron gets hurt, Rajon gets hurt. You got a bunch of young guys who hear their name in trade talks, and now Luke can't coach. It's preposterous to me. The fact that stuff is even aired and people think they're actually saying something of intelligence is what drives me a little nuts.
Well, whether Luke could coach or not, you wouldn't know due to circumstances.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Great point. And based on the way we've seen the growth of those young players prior to this year, I would say he's given you some indication. Is he a great coach? I don't know. Is he a good coach? Yeah, he's developing these guys. I can't, Josh Hart, Kyle Kuzma, Brandon Ingram was hurt.
They've developed. They've definitely developed, but I mean, you can't go overboard. You can't go overboard. You know what I'm saying?
I didn't say he's a great coach.
Yeah, he's capable. He's very capable. But it also comes down to respect.
Right.
Sometimes either you got it or you don't. Respect and commitment from a front office. So, Byron Scott really popped into my mind yesterday. And Byron Scott's a guy where whatever he was told in the front office or whoever was, his mindset was like, I'm going to go down being me. I'm going to have my integrity as a coach.
Yeah.
If you fire me, you're going to fire me because, I did it my way, trying to win, trying to do whatever it is and do it my way. And it's not because you told me necessarily to do something. And that was Byron's mentality.
Right.
And that's why, Byron's successes were his and Byron's failures were his. And I'll say, even though we lost all those games in Cleveland, by the time I went to Boston, I was equipped to run every scouting report, be in the correct spots, run the floor, do all the little things that really paid off. So, I credit Byron for a lot of my success. And you can even look at a guy like D'Angelo Russell that having the success he had, having learned from Byron Scott and the way Byron was tough on him. He wasn't defending, and at the end of the games, Byron would put D'Angelo Russell on the bench.
Yep.
And I believe he's paid off because of it.
I don't know how good D'Angelo Russell ultimately is or is going to be, but I will say he's better right now than I ever thought he would be. I don't know that he's a star player on a true playoff team, but he's going to end up being one, assuming that the Nets get there. He's going to be one this year, and he is a good player. I can see him playing 10 years in the league easily. And there was a time where I was not convinced of that, no matter how high he was drafted. All right, one last thing I want to get to before we get, and we're just going to rip through our picks for tomorrow, both the against the spread and the over under. We're not going to have a whole lot of conversation about it. We're just going to make our picks. Usually we give you a little explanation, but we're running short on time. You said, if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, that the greatest move in the history of basketball is James Harden's step back. Do I have that correct?
I said if right now I give the nod to Jordan because he's won championships, and the second James Harden wins a championship with his step back will be unanimously the greatest basketball move ever done on the basketball floor. I'm talking Dirk's fadeaway. I'm talking Barkley's 5-second back down, the fadeaway, the sky hook. His shot will be the best.
Well, okay, and then so it's a shot. It's not just a move.
I mean, you know what I'm saying, Rick. I want
to be clear. And I'm glad you clarified that, because I don't think I don't have to worry about now that ever being. I don't see James Harden.
You don't know that Kevin Durant leaves the Warriors, and you could not just say that.
Yeah, I'm going to say that. I think they're hamstrung by Chris Paul's contract, and I just the how they're built. I don't see James Harden ever lifting the Larry O'Brien trophy, but nonetheless, that's for another time. When it comes to moves, the dream shake for me, Hakeem Olajuwon on the post, making guys look silly, that to me will be forever at the top of the mountain. And he did win championships. But Hakeem's ability to simply, in a time where the game was physical, his ability to to just Houdini guys on the block, that will forever be for me. Whatever shot you want, whatever shot came after it, it really was the footwork, the kind of the over under, the step through, whatever you want to give him as the final shot on it. To me, that like James is might be top 5 right now, but and where's 2, 3, 4, I don't know. But number 1 is the dream shake, and it's hard for me to imagine anything toppling that.
Yeah, okay. I mean, the dream shake isn't even above the sky hook, so you're just fully bananas right now.
Just dissing me, just dismissing the idea that the dream shake. And look, again, the sky hook is being sort of an unstoppable weapon, and what Hakeem did. I mean, Kareem. I can accept that, and that would certainly be in my top 5. Might be my number 2. When I think about the skill, when I think about the overall beauty of the shot and what he did and how unique it was for Hakeem. Did we call him a 7-footer? Because I don't know whether he shrunk with age.
6'10".
Okay. Close to a footer. The elegance with which he played at that size was something before its time. So, and he was also a guy who could step out. It had the jump shot as well, but now we're getting into comparing players, and I didn't want to go there. All right, enough of that. Let's very quickly, as always on Fridays, we give you the over/under and against the spread for all of the Friday night games, or at least the ones that have a line out. And actually, we only have, as of right now, we have. Let's see. No, we have. Oh, we have a number of games out that we can do here. So let's start. Let's start with the Dallas Mavericks at the Orlando Magic. The Orlando Magic are giving the Dallas Mavericks 7 points, and the over-under is 213. Where are you going with this one?
I'm going to go Orlando, and I'm going to go over.
And I am going to go, I'm also going to go the over, but I'm going to take the 7 points. I'm going to take the 7 points, and I'm going to take Dallas. All right, Washington, the Wizards, are visiting the Charlotte Hornets, and the Hornets are giving them 5 points, and the over-under is 234. I guess I'll go first on this one. The -5 and the Wizards. This is in Charlotte. I'm going to go Washington, and I am going to go under.
I'm going Washington, but I'm going over. I'm used to going first, bro.
Sorry. Well, then you can on this one. Cleveland is visiting the Miami Heat. The Miami Heat are giving up 8.5 points, and the over-under is 213.
I'm gonna take the Heat, and I'm going under.
I'm also going to go Miami, but I am going that 8.5 for the way they play. You know what? I take it back. I'm going to go Cleveland, and I am going to go over. All right. The Detroit Pistons are visiting the Chicago Bulls. These are two teams that quietly have been playing very well. The Chicago Bulls are the home underdog. They're getting 3.5 points. And the over-under is 218. I am going to go Detroit, and I am going to go over.
Chicago really scares me right now. They've been playing on a high.
Mm-hmm.
They're in Chicago.
Yes.
I'm actually going to take Chicago.
Okay.
Both teams have been trending the right way.
Yes.
But I'm going to go under, which is interesting. But Zach LaVine is playing like he's pissed he missed the All-Star game, dude.
He really is. It's good to see. It's good to see Jim Boylan kind of finding his feet as a coach too.
Otto Porter, locker room cleaned up.
Otto Porter, huge acquisition. And you know that in Chicago, the media killed them for that deal. And I was like, you guys don't understand. They need a veteran who plays in the worst way. Look how it's emboldened. Like even Robin Lopez is in a different place. It's changed everything. And by the way, having a guy who kind of plays a wing like Zach, who can play off of him, you don't think Zach's evolution, that Otto Porter's presence hasn't had anything to do with that? You bet your ass it has. All right, the Utah Jazz are visiting the Memphis Grizzlies. The Memphis Grizzlies are getting 5 points. They are a home underdog as well. And the over-under is 213. Where are you going with this one?
I'm going to take Utah, and I'm going to go over.
You're going to go over. I am going to do the same. Even though I'm going to try to get Mike Conley on the podcast next week because what he's been doing, without Marc Gasol and continuing to play tough and make them competitive in a very difficult situation has been very impressive to me. All right. Oh, this is a good one. The Nuggets visiting the Warriors, and the Warriors are giving the Nuggets 6.5 points, and the over-under is 233. You went first on the last one, so I'll go on this one. I am taking Denver in the points, and I am going over.
I'm taking the Warriors, and I'm going over. We're going to see an upset Warriors team, I believe, even though they have disappointed. But I'm going to expect that they choose to show up, just because Denver's kind of supposed to be the rival here.
Yes, I will say this about that. This is a matchup where, I'll be interested to see Cousins play Jokic. Cousins can be far more effective against a Jokic type, but they've been getting Plumlee, and they've been getting it from a lot of different places. Guys that weren't supposed to be factors at the beginning of the year, and still not sold on them as a playoff team, but as a regular season team, Mike Malone has a lot of guys contributing in a big way. All right, last game that we have to pick. The Los Angeles Clippers are welcoming the Oklahoma City Thunder to Staples Center, and the Los Angeles Clippers are giving the Thunder 1.5, and the over-under is 237. Where are you going?
I'm going to take the Clippers here. they've just seemed to play the Thunder well at home.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to go over. I'm going to go under here.
Okay.
I'm going to go under because I don't trust the shooting, the volume shooting of Oklahoma City. I think they're the reason this thing doesn't go over.
Yeah.
Even though they can push the pace with the best of them. But I think their outside shooting is going to keep them under 237.
Right. Oklahoma City is also playing tonight at Portland. Paul George back, to me, changes everything. I'm going to take OKC. But I am with you. I'm going to go the under. 237 seems just a little high. I could see this being like a 114, 110 type of game. All right. Those are our picks. That is it. Again, if you enjoy the show, or even if you don't, please drop us a rating, review us on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. All you got to do is click the stars, however many stars you want to give us. And then we can give you something if you tweet a screenshot of that review to @BucherFriends, and we'll enter you in a raffle to win some swag or some prizes from Ryan, Will, or myself. In the meantime, in the next podcast will be Monday, and I will be joined per usual with Will Blackman, Super Bowl champion, and I'm sure we'll have plenty to get into, whether it's with the latest movement in free agency with the NFL. Is Nick Foles, does he end up with the Jags, and what does that mean for their future? And everything else. Does Antonio Brown have a place? Does he land by Monday? That's the expectation. We'll talk about that as well. In the meantime, as always, thanks for listening.